What's going on, everyone? Before we get into today's show, I want to ask this question right off the top. Would you trade up in the NFL draft? Would you be willing to part ways with even more picks to get your top guy in the middle of round 2? If so, give me a Y for yes. So if you're like, you know what, I'm happy with picking at 64, drop an N for no down below, and let's get into today's show. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. Today's show is all about the draft, all right? Denver's finally turned to pick because a lot of fun happened yesterday. I don't know about you guys, but there's a little bit of FOMO. I mean, not like I, would give up Russell Wilson to have that number 9 pick back, but it's like, all right, can we just join in on the fun a little bit? So we're going to check out my day 2 big board, top guys, a mix of realistic and fantasy and Broncos draft needs. So, I got to put Nakobe Dean number 1. I thought he was a first-round pick. I mean, raise your hand if you remember talking about picking him at number 9 a couple months ago. The guy fell hard. We'll talk about him more in detail later on. Ojabo, Gordon, and Raimann make 2, 3, and 4. Ojabo was a former first-round pick before the Achilles injury. We know Peyton loves DBs. Raimann could help at the offensive tackle spot long-term. Chad Muma's just a beast of an off-ball linebacker along with Leo Chenal. Benito can offer some pass rush help and a little extra stability for years to come with some expiring contracts coming up on the Broncos roster. How about the local dude, Trey McBride, add even more fire to this Broncos offense. Abraham Lucas would be a nice tackle pick, I think, and Cameron Thomas also adding some pass rush help because you got a lot of good quarterbacks in the AFC. So who is your top draft prospect left? We got 32 names off the board, so you can't say any of those players. But you want to go Nakobi Dean, you want to go Trey McBride. Honestly, I don't think there's really a wrong answer. So let me know in the comment section who your top draft prospect is. Let's say Denver wants to trade, though. Let's say Nakobi Dean really starts to slip. And Peyton's like, I want this guy bad. Well, if you combine pick number 64 and their first third-round pick, that gets you in this range. I don't expect a Seahawks trade because we did that once. Falcons, I could see them trading back. They need extra picks. They're not ready to win right now. Browns, I bet they'd want to stay. The Ravens, they got a ton of picks. They got 6 fourth-round picks. So they need more picks. The Vikings have traded back once, which tells me their front office is very open to moving back to pick up extra draft capital. Listen, if Nakobe Dean starts to slip, this is a player we talked about Denver picking 9th overall at one point. All right, Peyton not only has to call to move up in the draft to get this guy, I want him knocking out cell towers across the entire Rocky Mountain region to make sure Nakobe Dean is on the Broncos roster. That's how awesome of a pick this would be in the middle of the second round. Look what the scouting report is from our NFL draft guru, Tom Downey. His instincts, elite, Tom says. And not only that, but a great athlete who can play sideline to sideline. He's a smart dude. He makes all the plays. He makes all the tackles. Maybe his biggest knock is that he doesn't just wow you in any one place like Devin Lloyd did, and that's why Lloyd was drafted in the middle of the first round. But still, this is an awesome player who led the number 1 team in college football last season. Now, there's some concerns over his knee. Apparently, he didn't, participate much in his pro day at Georgia, and some GMs are worried that this knee injury may be more serious than expected. But I also remember when DK Metcalf fell to pick number 64 in the NFL draft because of injury concerns for him. Look how that worked out. Give these guys some time. Let your NFL team doctors take care of it. It's 2022. I've said this before. We've got the whole modern medicine thing down pretty well at this point. So a knee is not going to scare the living life out of me. We'll get to the rest of our draft coverage in just a moment, but we're closing in on 8,000 subscribers. Look at us, 7,515. Who would have thought? Not me. So if you want to get involved and be a part of one of the fastest growing Broncos YouTube channels out there for the best news and rumors surrounding your team in Mile High, hit that big red button and subscribe. Some other trade-up targets I could see Peyton trying to get. What about David Ojabo? Right? This guy was a first-round pick we talked about for a while, ruptures that Achilles, and all of a sudden, he could be attainable in the middle of the second round. Kyler Gordon, I don't know, just because you don't really need a corner that bad. But we know Peyton loves DBs, and Bernhard Raimann, who some has a first-round pick, that's just good value. If you're like, that guy's an awesome football player, we expected him to be long gone by pick 45, maybe Peyton picks up the phone and, shores up that offensive line even more for Russell Wilson. Let's break down Ojabo first, though. He's got everything you're looking for. Now, doesn't have the longevity of a collegiate career. Just 2 seasons at Michigan. Broke out onto the scene last season. We'll get you his stats. But what he did when he was playing last year for the Wolverines was awesome. 11 sacks last year and 5 forced fumbles. And then you think about Bradley Chubb entering the final year of his contract. Malik Reed on a 1-year tender. You sign Randy Gregory, but you haven't seen Gregory ever play a full season in his entire career. So Ojabo could make some sense right there if he starts to really slip. We also know George Paton loves his DBs. You remember last year when he drafted Surtain 9th overall, and then he signs Darby in free agency, Kyle Fuller in NFL free agency, already having Bryce Callahan on the roster, along with a day 2 pick in Michael Ojemudia the season before. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like, you know what? Corner's not our biggest need. In fact, we don't really have a huge need. We could play football right now and not have a glaring weakness. But Kyler Gordon, who's got an awesome ability, who can jump his way out of the gym, he can move all across the defensive front. If you want to line him up in some nickel packages, you want to put him outside. I'm guessing Surtain's going to be your lockdown outside corner, but still, if you want a nice little balance right there, Kyler Gordon could be that guy for you. Next up, we're going to check out some round 3 draft targets. Because don't forget, Denver is not only picking at the end of round 2, but they've got 2 picks in round number 3, so we'll check out who could be available when they are on the clock then. But first, I want to tell you guys about what we're doing here at Chat Sports for the NFL Draft. If you're looking for a spot to get free NFL Draft coverage, an absolute awesome live stream where we break down every single pick, keeping you entertained and informed all at once, along with games in between picks, because we know sometimes it can get a little dry when you're waiting to get that pick in. We've got you covered. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. Check us out later today for rounds 2 and 3, along with day 3 of the NFL Draft. Here are my top round 3 targets. Like we said, we know Peyton's got a bit of a hard-on for DB. So what about Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska? This could be a good fit right there to try and add some depth in that secondary, along with Tariq Woolen. Channing Tindall, he didn't even get to start because Georgia had that many just dogs on that dog defense. He could be a snake in the grass because he was just, couldn't peek through. Like Kyle Trask, for example, if you remember him back in Florida, he sat behind Felipe Franks. In fact, he didn't even get to start in high school because a guy named De'Aaron King, ever heard of him, was on the roster ahead of him. Daniel Falale, the offensive tackle from Minnesota, the mountain of a man that's kind of slipped a little bit, so maybe he can get picked in round 3. And Jelani Woods, the tight end from Virginia. I think this guy could be the next JT for the Broncos, a nice red zone target for Russell Wilson. I'm watching for Channing Tindall, though. I'd be happy with any of those guys, honestly, but Denver kind of needs an off-ball linebacker. Josie Jewell on a 2-year deal, that's fine. I've got no issues with that, but, what's the rest of the inside linebacker core really looking like? Alex Singleton from free agency. You're moving Baron Browning out of that position, it sounds like. I think adding an extra off-ball linebacker, thinking ahead here, could be a smart move. Now, Tindall, you look at the notes here from our NFL draft expert, Tom Downey, a great athlete, doesn't miss many tackles. He does everything well. He just doesn't exceed or blow you out of the water in any one direction, but he also never really had the chance to. He was stuck behind Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, Quay Walker got drafted first round by Green Bay, and Nakobe Dean might be the first pick of round 2. So he never got a chance to break through. What about Jelani Woods, the tight end from Virginia, who's only got 1 real season of football experience? We'll show you his stats in a moment. But our NFL draft expert, Tom Downey, says he is a giraffe loose on the field. Do with that what you will. But when you're 6'7" and 260 pounds and can run as fast as he can and can jump as high as he can, it's going to be tough to pass up on him. 8 touchdowns last season for the Who's, nearly 600 yards on only 44 receptions in just one season. So you don't have a ton of tape out on this guy, but some have said if LeBron James played football, he would be this player. And if that's the case, I wouldn't have much of an issue of drafting him in round 3, especially coming off, losing Noah Fant in the Russell Wilson trade. I want to end the note and the video on this note. Type me if you're just excited for the Broncos to make a pick. You're like, all right, everyone had their fun already in the NFL draft. I mean, just be thankful we're not the Rams. They have to wait. They don't do anything today. They got to wait till tomorrow to make a pick. So type me down below if you are excited for the Broncos to make a pick. I'll catch up with you later, guys, with more Broncos draft coverage. Enjoy the NFL draft day 2, and until then, go Broncos.